Now we need to work together to come up with some strategies on how to sell this box of graphics cards I found by the river. Okay, sure. We're just clear about what the graphics card is, and then if people want one, they'll buy it. You really think you're gonna sell a graphics card on wish.com like that? You gotta convince me that graphics card's gonna cure my marriage-ruining erectile dysfunction. Okay. Yeah, that'll be great if this was 1752. No one cares about 4K gaming anymore. Dear God, that's magnificent. It's always comforting to see Wish's used diaper plastic bags. Ooh, wow, that went all the way over there. But it's fine, I'm sure all this plastic protected it. This looks less like a package you'd ship a graphics card in and more like one you'd ship an alien head bong in. Ah, yes, very good. Oh, wow, that is a smell. Oh, it's nice of them to add a quick start guide that includes sage advice, like please make sure the computer is powered off and cut off power supply off computer case. Whoa, we also get a single 6-pin to dual 8-pin PCIe power connector. That seems perfectly safe to use. And then here's our graphics card that smells like a fire in a fertilizer factory. Ooh. Apparently this graphics card is by Dicka Saver, which is easily the best AIB name. Now, aside from the Dicka, this is a reasonable feeling cooler for what this graphics card is. I mean, that's some sturdy plastic for a Wish graphics card shroud. And then on the top of the graphics card, aside from a couple of copper heat pipes, there's only one PCIe 8-pin power connector. So why did they give us an adapter for dual 8-pins? Do we need 2 of these? And then when looking at the I/O, it's immediately clear that this isn't just a fake GTS 450 pretending to be a different graphics card that itself isn't fast enough for 8K gaming. I think this is the graphics card it claims to be, which is an RX 580. It's an 8GB version of the RX 580, which checks out for an 8K gaming graphics card. You don't really need more than a gig per K, but it is the castrated 2048 SP version of the RX 580. This graphics card is basically an RX 570. But again, that is a well-known 8K capable graphics card. After the testing, I took the cooler off so we could have a quick look at the Dicka unsheathed. This is a pretty standard Wish graphics card cooler undercarriage. They really like just taking a piece of aluminium and cutting some grooves in it for extra surface area. But because this is a real graphics card and not a fake one, we get a couple niceties like some heat pipes and a couple of thermal pads making contact with the video memory and the power delivery. Oh, and there is our legendary Polaris GPU. I can recognize that bad boy with my eyes closed. In terms of the PCB, it's a budget graphics card PCB. We've got reasonable power delivery. There's our 8 gigs of video memory that makes this an 8K gaming graphics card, remember? And other than that, not a whole lot to talk about except for our 8-pin power connector. This PCB really puts the savor in Dicka. With that, let's drop it in a system and work our way up to the resolution Wish intended. Which was way more challenging than I was expecting. After an initial potential red flag when first firing up the system, everything went smoothly. I didn't even need to use virus drivers from the seller's Google Drive. So now that we've established our Wish graphics card works, we're gonna test it in stages, starting with a use case it should be able to handle. Now I'm starting off with CS2 at 1080p low settings. This is gonna be the easiest test we have this video, and well, it's not super promising. We're getting over 120 frames per second, but this is a game designed to run on your granny's pacemaker, so not super promising for what's to come. Having said that, aside from a couple of pretty big stutters, in a vacuum, it's running fine, and the temperatures are good too. Now moving over to Cyber Bedizzle running at 1080p medium settings, we're jumping around 40-ish frames per second. Not very promising considering that we're supposed to be able to game with this at 16 times the resolution of what's happening here. But I'm sure the graphics card just refuses to associate with this peasant resolution, and it'll start to really come into its own as we climb up the resolution mountain. Or not, which is a lot more likely. Oh, wow, this cut-down RX 580 is just about clinging on when it comes to modern, more demanding games. This is 1080p low settings, and again, we're hovering around 40 frames per second. At least we still have a lot of video memory left to utilize, so we've got that going for us, which is nice. So generally, at 1080p, this slightly cut-down RX 580 runs esports titles pretty well. This is Dota running at the second highest preset, and it's very playable. But when it comes to more demanding modern games, it starts to struggle. Now, for us to jump to much higher resolutions, we need a display that's a little bit more serious than this 1080p NZXT one I've been using. I think I've got just the monitor. I'm gonna be using this 48-inch 4K LG OLED thing. Now you're probably thinking, David, 4K is a much smaller resolution than 8K. And you'd be right, but this is the highest resolution display I have lying around. But don't worry, we'll figure out a way to get that graphics card to render some 8K. But before we do that, we still have some steps to climb. So we've moved over to 1440p. Here we are with CS2, and well, we haven't lost that much frame rate, to be honest. So even at 1440p, CS2 is very playable. It's not a great result, but usable. However, moving over to Cyberpunk, the cracks were already starting to show. Ooh, a game that struggled at 1080p is really not having a good time at 1440p. Not sure who would have seen that coming, but this is with low settings. And even at 1440p, our 8 gigs of video memory is already almost fully used. Yeah, I think as is expected, this 700-year-old mid-range graphics card doesn't do great at 1440p with newer games, despite this being low settings, but it's just kinda out of its depth here. Having said that, with esports titles, its performance is admirable, still providing a very usable result at 1440p. But things are getting scary fast. Now, the performance may have been drop-kicked in the crotch, but I'm kind of surprised at how well this is going. It is just CS2 at low settings, but it's hovering around 60-ish frames per second, and it's really very playable. This is not going as poorly as I was expecting. But bear in mind, 8K is 4 times the resolution of 4K. Now, hear me out. I don't think this is going as poorly as I was expecting. Yes, the performance is a disaster and no one should game this way, and we're not at the advertised gaming resolution yet, but it's 4K and it's kind of okay. But that naive optimism quickly evaporated when I started trying to get the advertised 8K running on the RX 580. Because I didn't have a native 8K display to use, I had to use upscaling to get an 8K rendered image to happen. Something that should be possible using AMD's virtual super resolution. Scaling technology that's designed to let you run the game at a higher resolution than your monitor supports. But with the 4K display attached, every time I switched GPU scaling on in AMD's drivers, it would just break the video output. I even spent hours trying different versions of AMD's drivers, but nothing worked. I even went looking for an 8K display to buy, but the only options in stock cost the GDP of a small country. At this point, everything seemed hopeless. Surrounded by despair, I knew if I posted this video sans 8K result, the wrath of Gary's will surely assault. But then, after a full day of struggling, I stumbled onto a video by Mike the Tech about how to set up 8K virtual displays on your system. Oh my lord, I think it finally works. Thank you so much, Mike. Let's please have this be the way we get to test 8K gaming on this graphics card. And once I set up the virtual display, I had to use OBS to see it. This is getting really stupid, but this is it now on... I was gonna say virtual display, but I still ran into a problem with CS2. It wouldn't let me select the virtual display as an output option. So I decided to try Cyberpunk instead. Oh, Cyberpunk is stupid enough to let me do it. Yes! And with a little bit of fine tuning, we were ready for some 8K gaming. Oh, that is all I wanted from this video, was to have Cyberpunk run at 1 frame per second at 8K on this graphics card, and it would have been way easier to do if I didn't sell my 8K TV. But we finally got there with the most ridiculous workaround ever. Well, actually, no. This isn't the lowest frame rate I've ever gotten in this game. I think we've gotten it down to like 2,000 milliseconds. But this feels pretty wild, I'm not gonna lie. The added latency of previewing the virtual monitor through OBS just adds another level. So I'm gonna move my mouse now. And it's not happened. It's starting. There we go. There we go. It's happened. It's finally happened. But after struggling for way too long to get into the settings, I realized that we were running at high with Fidelity FX on, which meant we weren't technically running at 8K. So I dropped the settings to low and turned Fidelity FX off. It's still just 1 frame per second, but it's running way better. Although, if anything, it's more unwieldy now because of how the input, like there's basically no connection between the input that I give and what happens on screen. The menus in The Last of Us was basically unnavigable. You had to smack the input continuously for several seconds and just hope that the game registered it. But once I finally found my way into a session, it was about on par with Cyberpunk, i.e. completely unplayable. But then I found a game that kind of was playable. I finally found an old game that'll let us pretend to run in 8K, kind of, I guess. And despite this game being almost as old as I am, I think it's very close to my age, at 8K, we're only getting 19 frames per second, which I guess means this is an 8K gaming graphics card because 8K gaming is happening on it. And despite the fact that we've just got 47 milliseconds between each frame, the input lag is still terrible. Like, you can see there's quite a delay between inputs and stuff happening on the display. But I think that's almost entirely because we're playing the game through the preview window in OBS. But yeah, so with that, I guess if you lived 25 years ago and somehow also had this graphics card and an 8K monitor, then yeah, Wish's advertising is perfectly accurate. Good job. Well done! Which brings me to the end of another video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, and maybe if you have time, watch another video. A suggestion will pop up in a second, and until the next one, bye-bye.